Hey there, I'm Sheila. I'm a beer sommelier from Box and Rock Brewing Company, and I'm here to geek out a little bit about porters. I'm actually really glad I picked porter today because our Baltic porter is called Tantoaster, and it is a hell of a Tantoaster out there today. A Tantoaster is a good old like Nova Scotian or maritime word for a really bad storm. We've had upwards of 100-kilometer winds today, tons of rain, a little bit of hail even. So yeah, this is a perfect beer to talk about, and porters is a fun style to talk about, kind of mid-spring when it's still kind of cool, and the nights are still quite cold, and you can really sit down and enjoy a good old porter. So a little bit about the two beers I'm tasting. We have the Tantoaster Baltic Porter. We also have our brand new Box and Rock's brand new coffee porter. Yes, in cans. Very excited about that. So I'll talk a little bit about each of those styles as I go. But first, like, the porters are really interesting because it is a very old style, originated in London in the 18th century, really made popular because of its popularity amongst river and street porters. And so, like, after they'd get done a day of delivering and running around London, they wanted a really nice, strong, malty, dark beer. And so the porter was born. And not only did it fast become like one of the best beer styles brewed all around the world, it became really popular in different strengths. So soon in London, they started brewing something called the Stout Porter. So even though the Stout is actually a little bit probably more prestigious and considered to be even maybe a little bit more fancy than a regular porter, the Stout is actually a porter. So it was just a strong porter. By like the mid 18th century, when like after the Napoleonic Wars and increased taxation happened, the ABV, the really strong porters, were not so popular anymore. So what's considered to be the regular porter came back in style, started being brewed all around the world, and certainly became really popular again everywhere. Our Baltic porter, obviously brewed in the Baltic states, like of Estonia and Lithuania, and certainly other places like Finland and Russia now as well, but is considered to be a much stronger porter. It's almost like a combination or a balance between a Russian Imperial Stout and a regular porter. So it's got some really nice traditional porter characteristics, but it's very sweet, high in alcohol, really high, rich, dark malts, complex malts as well. So we'll taste that first, and then we'll move on to the coffee porter. Now, in terms of picking a glass for a porter, back in the day in London, certainly the Nonic, or like the classic pub style glass, like a shaker, would probably be your glass of choice, certainly in the pubs. Now, porter was like also the first beer style beer to be actually aged in the brewery. So that way when it was delivered into like right to the pub, it was ready to go. So again, another reason for its popularity. Porters always have been quite dark in color, just like a stout, almost opaque, but certainly you get with a porter you get a lot of nice like ruby edges, especially in light. You can see some really nice rubiness in the porter, and this one particularly is almost more like a mocha brown, but again is that quite opaque. The foam of a porter typically is a nice kind of cappuccino color, and typically quite smooth foam, or less carbonated than some other traditional beers. Should be served like at a 7 to 10, 7 to 13 even degrees Celsius temperature, really to impart more flavor. It doesn't need to be as cold as some of the other beers, or as warm as others as well. So 7 to 10 degrees. So this one, we give it a sniff. It's got beautiful dried fruit flavors. And I've got like a little porter tray here that kind of shows some of the characteristics of a porter, both the aroma and the taste and the flavors. Things like sweetness. So you're going to get lots of caramel or toffee or brown sugar. You might even get some molasses. Things like also like a brown bread characteristic, so more that really dark malt flavor and aroma, and then tons of dried fruit, things like currants, raspberries, currants, cranberries, dates, raisins, things like that. And then of course, a little bit of milk chocolate more than dark chocolate. So, you know, when we start talking about the characteristics of the difference between a stout and a porter, again, I explained about the name, but some of the flavor characteristics nowadays have to do with chocolate. So a porter might be more of a milk chocolate than a dark chocolate, which would be more of a stout. And those dried fruit characteristics wouldn't be as quite as present, and sometimes not present at all in a stout. Porters tend not to be as smoky. Although I think with a coffee porter, we'll probably find some smokiness or some roastedness, because those coffee beans give a really nice roasted characteristic to porter as well. So if I give it a bit of a sip, a lot of those dried fruits, I get a ton of dried raisins right away. And also some currant. It's really quite a nice, like, bold bitterness on the back of my tongue at the end. It's really quite smooth though. And the other thing about porters is typically they are quite balanced. So people can enjoy them just as a pub drink, right? It's not something that you're just going to enjoy with food or just going to enjoy on its own. You can actually, it's quite balanced. Really nice characteristics of those dark malts. So dried fruits, there's a bit of sweetness up front, but it's, you know, it fades quite past, and it's that balanced bitterness that comes through. You'll get a slight molasses in this, in the Tantoaster. And I say in terms of food, what the Tantoaster is good with, and maybe it's because it's called Tantoaster, but it's really good with rich, really nicely cooked food. So things like moose or venison stew or even a beef stew. I say cooked on the wood fire because if it's a real Tantoaster, probably lost your power, which actually already happened once today. So I'm glad to be online with you and have power. Also really good with desserts. Tantoaster or Baltic porters are really nice with any type of chocolate dessert or a dried fruit cake, things like that. So really kind of bring out and complement those dried fruits, those chocolate flavors. Again, that coffee probably will be really nice with a chocolate coffee dessert. So yeah, one way to enjoy a nice porter. To go back to the Baltic porter, again, typically Baltic porter meant stronger, richer, sweeter, higher ABV. So this one's 7.5%. So it is quite strong for a porter, but it doesn't necessarily taste that. Some Baltic porters would have quite a high alcoholic flavor, but this one is really nice. There is a bit of warmth to it and just a slight bit of bitterness. It's really nice roasted malt, and a bit kind of smoky from the malt as well, because it's a Baltic porter. So there is a bit of a difference. And fun fact, although we missed it this year, there is a Baltic Porter Day held every third Saturday in January. So perhaps next year we may have a Tantoaster the third Saturday of January here in Nova Scotia. You never know. Good chances, and we can enjoy that next January. So moving on, have the coffee porter, which is new, and cans to Boxing Rock are new as well. I'm going to try this one here in a bit of a chalice or goblet, just to see what happens with the aroma. And I have now lost power. As you can hear the flickering of lights. I believe I'm still recording. My fridge is telling me it's had reset itself because I did just lose power. How appropriate. It is a Tantoaster out there. So coffee porter, you get again that really nice raisiny currant, dried fruit, and then that beautiful kind of espresso. So the coffee porter, I'm back without power. However, I've got a flashlight or a big light, and my computer's fully charged. So the coffee porter from Boxing Rock, again, really nice, beautiful dark brown mocha color, opaque, really nice ruby red edges as well to it, especially in the flashlight above. Dried fruits really come through, that nice espresso, coffee bean, roasted coffee flavor. Also comes through in the flavor. Difference between the Tantoaster and the coffee porter really is that This is quite a bit richer and smoother and drier from the coffee as well. So really nice dry finish. This is a perfect dessert beer. Absolutely perfect. Porter you'd also try, you know, with those rich meats I was talking about before, like a moose stew or a big steak. But this one, definitely drink alone. 7.3%, beautiful coffee flavor, and it does have nice espresso added to it. So, you know, has a bit of a caffeine kick as well. So beautiful, a beautiful nightcap, I guess you could say, in front of the fireplace as the Tantoaster hopefully dies down and power comes back on. So cheers. Here's a toast to the first Tidbits, Talks, and Toasts. Next week, please join us. In the meantime, you can order both the Tantoaster and the coffee porter online at boxandrock.ca and have it delivered right to the comfort of your very own home. And then next week, we'll be talking about something just as fun. So please join us. And any questions, send them our way. We love them. All right, take care. Cheers.